Wait, that's actually kind of low, isn't it? There we go. That's better. Okay. We are good. Everything great. Wait, actually, I should put up this thing I saw the other day. There's like an extra stats. Actually, I don't think I'll need that right now. It's fine. You can have like a little OBS panel that shows you like really technical stuff, like the frame rate and bit rate and shit, like on its own panel. And that's kind of nice sometimes, not gonna lie. Oh shit. I forgot to prepare the Discord message. Oops. That'll take me a couple few extra seconds. Couple few. That's a measurement. There we go. Cool. What else? Ooh, the mouse. True. There we go. Cool. All right. We Gucci. Time to go in. I might just jump right into it today, I think. Okay. Yeah, fuck it. You know? Actually, I shouldn't. I need to like contextualize my brain into what I'm doing, you know? Give it like the environmental awareness. Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing. Hello, Lana. What's up? How are you doing today? Yep. Brain's kicking in. It's like I know these sounds, I know these graphics. This is Overwatch. I know where I am. You know? It feels like the brain needs to go through that process sometimes. It's like when your GPS downloads like the map data. It's kind of like that. Well, hope you are too. Yeah, I'm keeping it positive, you know? It's been a bit stressful these last couple of days, but it's okay. Keeping it positive. Have fun with some good wholesome video game. Yes, no, Overwatch competitive mode. That is definitely the definition of like wholesomeness and relaxation. Like honestly, why do people even play like Animal Crossing when you have Overwatch comp? Hello, Nerves. How are you doing today? Or hello again. Actually, wait. Is it still the same day for you? I forget, like the rules of time travel are confusing. Sigma, I don't know. I don't know. Like lately I've just been playing Reinhardt almost exclusively, but I mean we'll see. We'll see. I'm not one to predict what my hero choices are gonna be. You know? It's all a dice roll. It's 1 a.m. a new day. Hey there, it's been wow. It's been so long. Good morning. How was your day? Alright. Oh shit. I almost forgot about this thing. Hold on, sorry. What the? Weird. Oh, that's not working. Hold on. Huh? Hold up. You are a Sigma man. God. That reminds me. I still mean to do like a recreation. Bro, my shit is broken. No. Why won't my soundboard work? Hello? This is extremely not poggers. What the fuck? What was I saying? Oh yeah, I meant to like recreate that one intro of that guy going like, why Sigma males are more attractive than alpha males. Let's go. Fucking Kaz even made me like the audio for it with like Vocaloids and shit. I still have it here, and I do mean to get to it. And it's going to be a little bit of an undertaking. It's actually busted. What the fuck? Why? No. Wait. Can you guys hear that? No, you can't. That's so weird.
TTS.
Okay, thanks for that, I guess. After watching a video of my Catholic idol Michael Reeves turned a Boston Dynamics. Oh, chaotic. I read Catholic, didn't I? Or Christian? I read that wrong. I definitely didn't read chaotic. Into a robot that pisses beer. I've decided to actually learn Python. That's excellent motivation. Michael is certainly an inspiration, I will say. I never watched his stuff very closely, but you know, I've seen him. I know of him. I've seen things. I've definitely seen some shit. All right, I guess I'll go fuck myself then. Cool. He truly is a pioneer. He truly is. God, do I want to go fuck myself though? I kind of really wanted to have this up today. It's likely I wouldn't use it, but still. It's so weird. Like, why did it just... Okay, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's whatever. It's whatever. It's whatever. You gotta work with what you have, is what I always say. Okay. There we go. But yeah, I've seen that video as well, or like I've seen it recommended, but I have not watched it yet. Sounds like a cool concept though. Yo, Nepal, let's go. God, I don't remember how to play this game. Fuck. Very cool. Yes, excellent. Ball off tank, let's go. I'm ready. I'm so ready for this game. Hello, team.
Hello.
That mercy. Paul. Whenever I hear someone say, I guess I'll go fuck myself, I always think of the saying, if you want to shove it in right, do it yourself. Honestly, that's a mood. That is extremely valid, relatable content on this Twitch.tv channel. I agree wholeheartedly. Alright. Let's see what we got. Is that a Pharah? There's a monkey on point. I have a Torb. Ryan spinning. On point. Oh my lord. Turret top left. Ryan half, but he's getting pocketed. Ryan spinning on point. On God. Ryan half. Ana no sleep, I'm low. Thank you. All shattered. Ana no nade, I'm low, be careful. Turret still top left. Thank you, Bap. Monkey on point. That Torm is just there.
Man, someone needs to get that turret.
Yeah, I can't do anything about it, I'm sorry. Our Mercy, nice, alright. Battle Mercy, let's go. Ryan pushed up. Ana no nade. I'm charging point. Ryan's half. Ryan's one. Nice, good job, guys. Finally home. Hi, Mom. Welcome home. Gonna watch my son in glory. Wow, I'm honored. Is that Torb like throwing or something? This is weird. Ash main.
We're going top left.
Okay. Bob's gonna be on point. Right on point.
We got too quick.
Oh dear. Unfortunate, wasted my shadow there. Cringe. That caught me off guard. That caught me completely off guard. Mercy, you can't blame them for jumping the carry. They saw you 1v1 the Torb, they know what's up. I know, I'm joking. I'm saying, because, you know, they both dove you because you're carrying the game. Okay.
I'm gonna mine on point.
Ash far right. All right side. Ryan low. Ryan one on point. Nice. Oh my god. I'm on Torb, main. Nice, good job, guys. And I also think that Ryan would be like the perfect partner in the bedroom. TTB would agree with you. Zeph, thank you for the resub. I don't want to be charged with... Why not? Hi dude, there you go, see? How are you doing today, Zeph? I'm going right side. They have Pharah. There's a monkey alone on point. He's jumping right, never mind. I'm getting her shield. They have a hog. Lucio close. I'm going to point. Monkey's there alone. Hog no hook. Torb far right.
Fucking headshot.
Alright, okay, they're not contesting. Very cool. I'm good, sir. How are you? I'm doing pretty good myself. Thank you. Left side, all left side. Thank you, Bap. Moreno fade. All low here. All on the ground. I have no idea what the fuck just happened there. Okay, okay, Narbs. True. Yeah, I think their Torb is like throwing or something.
I'm gonna ult when they come in. Just from here.
Nice, Bap. Huge, huge. Did you see my Navy SEAL? I did. Yes, I did. I'm sorry I didn't reply to it. It's been a bit of a. It's been a bit of a busy day. Huge grab. Oh my lord. What is happening? Is that monkey alive? I think he is. Toy, hi Toy! And thank you Panda for the cooler Colin redemption. Was it working? I didn't hear it. And now that I think about it, I don't think I can hear it. Thank you. I'm backing up. Our Bap needs help. Okay. Another shatter wasted. Very cool. That one I can hear. Thank you for the hydration reminder. I'll take a sip in a sec. Right side. Both tanks here. On the right side. Very cool. I was hoping to hook him before he could actually land the hook, but a bit overconfident of me, maybe. Torb's alone on point, left side. Zoning shatter. The shatter definitely went off. 100%. It for sure went off. That definitely happened. It definitely didn't get cancelled. Hog low. Ana's far right, no sleep. Oh, beautiful. Nice. Good job, everybody. GG.
Good job, GG.
Incredible. That Mercy, I will remember that Mercy for the rest of my life. The way she just like 1v1'd the Torb. Incredible. Zoning them away from the win. True. Fucking hell. Oh god. What a weird game. I'm pretty sure their Torb was like throwing, maybe. I think. Possibly. It kind of seemed like it. It definitely seemed like the game went too easy, you know? That always makes me think that, like, something's wrong. It's like a thrower on the enemy team, certainly. Yeah, it had been a while since someone used that, I think. Dub, true. Troy, true. Yo, we have the Mercy again. We have the Mercy again. We win. We win. We win. I believe in this team already. Getting sure. I mean, Hello, dragon. Hello, team.
Hello.
Yo, holy shit, we have Serval again. We win.
Sorry, what?
We have Serval, our Mercy. Last game, she 1v1 the Torb and won. It was beautiful.
Ah.
Match today? Good luck. I hope you win. I'm not into that. Interesting. They have a junk. We have a Pharah. Oh, oh. Ash top right. Okay. Wait, what?
Yes.
Ash same spot, top right. Ryan's charging in. Ryan's behind us, far right side. He might try to pin at some point. Yep, he's behind with our monkey. I have no idea what's happening. That sounded very sarcastic. Look, sometimes tone is very much up to the perception of the listener. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's you who hears the sarcasm. On a far left side. She's one. Ash right side.
Push, 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 push.
It's our final game before playoffs. If we win, we gotta buy and play next week. But if we lose, we play this week for play. I understood most of those words. But most importantly, I hope it works out well, you know? Ana no sleep, pushed up with Ryan. Hog left.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Interesting. I didn't realize I was that far ahead. That was my bad. Dorime. Tarm, thank you for the resub.
Oh.
You're up there alone, Doom. Be careful. We're waiting to regroup. Is that Tarm? It sure is. Ana no sleep. No nade. Okay, wait, I think I got something. I'm offended. Christ almighty.
Okay, okay, I switch.
Nice shirt. Thanks, Troy. I agree. Hog no hook. Oh, big. Hog no hook. Mercy one. Mercy one.
I don't have.
Mercy's pocketing Ash right side far. Junk's coming in, main. Have Shadow if they come in.
That's right.
Hog no hook. Christ, I can't believe I fucking missed Diana. Well, didn't miss then. Hog one. Almost got that junk, goddammit. Oh, 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 no way! How? Nav Echo now, no more Ash. Tyre coming left side. Ana no sleep. I'm low, main. Okay. I thought she might try that. I would have believed in her if she did. Also, I think we were down a bunch of people when I was in there. That was my bad. Okay. Oh, she lived. Ready to go top right? Hog's here. Hog no hook. Hog one. Ryan alone here. On me, he's half. Never mind, he's nanoed. I'm dead here. Thank you, Mercy. I love you. Ryan's behind us. He's one. Mercy rising behind. Ryan's half. Hog half. Christ almighty. I thought. I truly did. I really thought. Wait. Pause champ? I heard that. But his ult isn't used. Interesting. Ping in real time. Very cool. Wait, are Reapers in their backline? Let's go. Is that a sequel to iRobot? No, it's the same movie actually. Both their DPS are left side here. Echo far left. Okay. Hog no hook. Hog on the ground. I don't know nade. Junk one. Nano Echo pushing me. She's one. Echo one. Left side. On a far left side up top. Hog half. I don't know nade. Hog no hook. Good god. Thought is the X-rated version of a different streaming sites. True.
We are not together, that's why, putain.
Putain. You said the funny thing. Tyre top left. Ryan alone on point.
Oh my god!
Ryan's anti. Oh lord. It's okay, good push, guys. Bring back the Yogi Bear and kill a guy. I miss that guy. I miss that guy. What a legend. I swear, 1 year ago, Roadhog couldn't one-shot Reaper so easily. What the fuck has changed? That sounds very strange to me, because I feel like 1 year ago, it would have been easier to do it. Wouldn't it? Is his name like Menji or something? I think so, yeah. I don't remember either for sure though. It's fucking BS, he's so upset. Died 4 times to this combo, can't do shit. We salute you, brave soldier. How it's really balanced a year ago? Menju was the best. He really was. Maybe we will meet again in the battlefield. They have Junk Echo again? Okay. Okay. Right, no shields. Hog no hook. I'm backing up a bit. Never mind. What the fuck? Wait, what are they doing? They're dying. I think Hog's left side somewhere. Run shield low. Hog might come up top on the left side. I'm low on point. Thank you. That was my bad. I shouldn't have been that far ahead. How the fuck you know? Oh man. Ryan's pushed up on the payload. His shield is weak. I don't know, sleep. Ryan's low. Ryan's 1. I'm low as well. Thank you, Mercy. What the fuck's happening? Ryan on the ground. Big nade, big nade. Jung's close, main. Nice, soldier. I don't know what to eat. What are your options? They have a Kree now, no more Echo. Ass. That is certainly an option. Maybe not the most nutritious one, but you know, an option nonetheless. It's that Shanzi guy. Yeah, heard about him. Hog no hook on payload. Kree 1.
Let's sleep.
Hog's nanted, be careful. No hook. Oh dear. Oh dear. Hello, Danny. How you doing? How have you been enjoying Mountain Blade? The tire. I don't think I can touch in time.
I'll come back.
Yeah, sorry. Loving it? Nice. I do wish I could play it more, but time and also hard drive space are not very good factors for me. Glad you're enjoying it though. That's nice. Kree in the ground? How? Wait, how did the Hog not get it? What the fuck? It's Haikum, is it? It's high time he did it, to be honest. My god. Tire coming left side, I think. Tire left. Hog no hook. Oh my lord. Huge bomb. Nice, Diva. Oh, thank you, Mercy. Hog no hook. Hog anti, hog anti. He can die, he can die. Huge sleep, huge sleep. Ryan's one. Nice, good check, guys. Okay, I think I might be a little super. My filter to the piece of my brains has produced garbage. That is, you know, totally fair. I'm always at that state, to be completely honest with you. Hogs are going far right. Creolting main, be careful. Shield dead. Free no flash. My shield's still weak. I'm holding up front though. Big nade, big nade, big nade, big nade. Ryan shield weak. Hog no hook. Ryan spinning me. Ah, I did that so bad. Thank you, Mercy. Free one. Hog no heal. Hog no hook. The rest Kree close. Ana no sleep. Ana one, Ana one. Mercy in the ground, she's one. Hog no hook. Ana left side close. Ana no sleep. Hog left, close. Honor, he's one. Nice, good shit, good shit.
Good.
Just junk on point. Doom coming in left, behind. He's one. Never mind. Ryan's in. Ryan one. Mercy on payload. One. I don't know, sleep. I think that's it. Good shit, guys. GG.
GG.
God damn. Too bad I can't endorse them again. Feels bad. I need to learn how to make a pissing robot. Then Godspeed. Maybe you can double the output so that not only can the robot piss beer, but also coffee to keep you up. I love your calls. I'll call you anytime, Troy. Just kidding. No, I won't. That's invasion of privacy. But thanks. I feel like adding the P feature to a robot wouldn't be all that difficult. But you'd need to make room for a tank on the inside, which might cause problems. I see. That makes sense. Tanks on the inside is always very, very bad. Unless, of course, you are a Reinhardt enthusiast, in which case you may enjoy having a tank inside. So how about that weather, huh, guys? Reading the model after Torb is gonna sit on my desk and piss Monster Energy directly into my mouth. This is what technology is truly meant to be like. Fuck anything else. This is the pinnacle of human achievement. Building a robot to... Soup! Thank you for the resub. Thank you. Have you Miku'd your Monday yet? Unfortunately, my fucking soundboard is broken, so I can't quite directly Miku. But I do hope to... Hold on, let me try this again. Nope, still broken. I do hope... Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Okay, well, we'll have to tend to that after this game. Thank you, Tarm, for redeeming Dorame. It always makes me sound when you and your teammate get slept and call out, I don't know, sleep in similar calls. Yes, of course. The people have to know. they might not realize that you've been slept, you know? I gets protected the custom voice for the torpists. That would be something. That would be something. Hello, team.
Hey.
It's MIKU Monday now. It really is. It absolutely is. How are you doing today, Soup? I don't have a piss game. We believe you. It's okay. Don't worry. No judgment. Gloves. Interesting. Interesting. They have a Junkrat hiding somewhere? Never mind, he's not hiding, he's top right. Ryan's on the ground. Junk's half.
I can see you right.
Zyno personal. Ryan half. Ryan 1.
One top. Mercy one. En
I'm inside.
no, skip it.
What? My bad, I went too deep. Junk's 1.
Yes, you
Top
guys-
left. Thank you. Ryan's coming back. Careful, Zarya.
I can see you, sorry.
Motherfucker. Junk left side, close.
Skipping.
And I one.
Ryan half. Ryan 1. Junk 1.
Can you use me?
Mercy resing.
Enemies are right behind.
Pitting Ryan 1. Okay, that was a lot. Sure. Okay. True, Dragon. So true.
He's evading. I got bets for him.
Tired of maths. I've cried about... Who? What is a surd? Oh, big grab. Math is with a bunch of old wild men, so I choose to ignore it. Very sensible. Extremely sensible. Ryan wants to chatter. Mercy left side, never mind, she's dead. Sorry, no personal.
Check on me.
Junk alone on payload. Right side, nice. Ryan's cut off, left side, he's 1. Never mind. Zen left, indoors. Zarya and Zen are here, both. Wait, what? Zarya on the ground, she's 1. Nice, good take, guys. Junk on payload, he's 1. They wasted nano on Zen. Junk's 1, right side close. Thank you. Zarya no personal. Ryan shield down. Ryan's 1. Ryan spinning in. Unfortunate. Zarya's really pushed that bar spawn on our Mercy. Unfortunate. Shinzo PMA. I've heard that.
Good.
But thanks.
I got nano.
Ash top left.
I can see you right. Jack on the left side behind you.
He's one, he's one. He's one. Nice, nice. Thank you, Mercy. Oh dear. Oh, huge. Thought that was right in the grab one. Big, big. Junk's top. What the fuck? Tire top left.
It's one.
Fucked up.
Sleeping rain.
No.
Ah.
Oh, he's on that too.
I fed there.
Fake craft, not your own day.
Whacked by Robert. I don't see a Robert. Who is Robert? Oh, Bob. Gotcha. Robert. I see. Funny. That's true. I guess that is his full legal name. Wish I had some tater tots. Not sure I ever had tater tots. Flew there. Ryan's one. Nice, nice.
Just his
Sorry, half. Sorry, one.
We'll take that now.
Oh. Junk's gonna be top. Bro. They res the Zarya. Mercy one. I'm trapped. Be careful. Big grab, big grab. Huge Zarya. Nice, good shit, guys. It's actually Bobathon. I'll have you know. How inconsiderate of me. Maybe that's like Robert Bobathon. You know, like full name. Sometimes in streams we have a hard time communicating Bob versus Bomb, so we say Robert. That actually makes a lot of sense. Wow. That makes a lot of sense. Flaccid tots? I'll fuck with it. Okay. I'm starting to see like a pattern to your preferences, toy. It's porpoise. It's flaccid tots. There's a bit of a pattern going on here. You know what I mean? Hey guys, sorry for the random question, but does anyone here know who Hatsune Miku is?
No.
Would you like to know? That's right, Dodo, Hatsune Miku. That's right, the blue hair girl, exactly. She will carry us to victory.
I dropped my bad.
Top left, Zarya and Junk. My shield's down, be careful. Big pick. I'm dropping behind them. Trying to pin someone, never mind. Wait, what happened there? What in the world? Someone's pushing the pilot still, be careful. Tell them Miku's the greatest R&B rapper of our time. I mean, true. Ryan's on payload. He's one.
Miko's coming.
I can't believe it lived there. Feels bad.
And I won.
Ryan's half. He's one.
Stick here.
He got naded.
Echo behind me.
Echo behind us. Echo one.
Ryan's charging in. He's half on payload. Zarya no personal. Or that's not the right one. How did I block that actually? I legitimately don't know.
Jungle right. Jungle right in the room.
Zarya's one.
Jungle still on the right.
I think there's two left here. Or just Lucio. Lucio left. Zarya close. Nice. Good pick. Eating ass for breakfast. Yeah, boy. Oh my lord. Ryan's pushed up. Ryan's one. Never mind, he got naded. Ryan shield weak. And shield out. Zarya pushed up, no personal. What the fuck's the Junkrat? I'm coming back.
On top, junk right, left side, on your left, Ash.
Nice, nice. Zarya left, top.
Ik ga even wat uit met jou. Ik ga zo goed het
Right side, Rain behind.
Ryan top.
Ik kan die sprint en dan
He's one.
als je een andere vraagt.
It'd be funny if he pinned me off the map.
She took the area. Right side.
Junk top right. Tire, tire, tire. I'm going behind them.
Fine, guys.
I'm on it, I'm on it. On a one. Zyno personal on point.
Rain's behind, right side.
Christ.
I'm dead.
Oh, I didn't do that very well.
Ah, I'm lucky.
I should have been on the Rhine more. That was my bad.
Okay, go back.
Echo top left. I can't see shit. Rhine's half. Rhine's half still. On a one. On an 8. Zarya in the ground, one. Rhine's half on me. Thank you, Mercy.
No, that's good.
Good God. What a mess. They have Genji now, no Mariko.
Check on the right side on you, Zarya.
Ooh, nice. On a bottom right.
Genji left side top. Zarya no friendly.
Both tanks bottom left. They have a BAP now, I think.
You didn't see
Is
the
there no bubbles? Yeah, sorry, sorry. My bad.
Can you web on me?
Oh, thank you, Mercy.
Rain's behind.
Huge.
Please.
I'm on Ryan. He's one.
I'm shattered.
He's kind of wasted that. Wow. What the coach got?
Zarya right, left side top.
I'm dropping to right. He's the bottom left. Anna's with him. What the fuck? Are they not coming in? Hello? Is there no personal top left? They used lamp there. Ryan with Anna, bottom left. Ryan's half. Anna no nade. Bap top right.
Thank you, Messi.
Bap on the ground.
Zarya's on me.
Calculated. I was running the numbers on that BAP jump, you know? I saw the arc. I was like, I know what to do. Oh my god. Zarya. Will they grab this? That would be so funny if they did. Mercy one. Ryan's low.
Can't see you, Rain.
Sorry, my bad, my bad. They wasted lamp bottom left. Thank you, Mercy. He let that.
GG, good game.
My god. GG, guys.
G.
What the fuck was that, bro? Holy shit. I was sorry, it was really good. Oh fuck. I wish I could figure out why this isn't working though. Oh shit, and we gotta redeem the thing. We gotta redeem Dorame. I'm so sorry. Alright. Gamers. Let's all gather around. Okay, very cool. I guess it's just still broken. All right, that's fine. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. Okay, everyone. A moment of silence. If you type anything in chat now, I would please ask you that you only type the Dorame emote for the next, I forget however long the fucking animation goes. Anyway. I forgot her eyes lit up at the end there. Also, I realized that I haven't put chat in this scene. I gotta do that. I gotta do that as well. How careless of me. It's been a while, to be fair. It's been a while since we've used that. Among Us. Gaze upon her visage and know true salvation. Visage? Is it visage? Or like some other weird way to say it, like visage. I never fucking know with English. Okay. Here we go again. So we've had a Torb throwing, a Zarya carrying. What happened in the second game? What was the second game? I already forgot. Dorado. What happened in Dorado? Wait, we won Dorado? What the fuck? Gonna be another few months till I have enough points for that. It is a bit costly, but for good reason. Speaking of which, actually, speaking of costly, I think I should make the
Hello, team.
Thank you, Troy. Good reminder.
Hello.
Hello, team. I should maybe
we're going to win this already.
Of course.
True.
True. Yeah. Oh my god, I love it when people talk and 6 people in voice chat. That's like, oh, oddly satisfying.
Yeah.
I know.
Like top 10 oddly satisfying things in Overwatch. It's top one. Top one is having 6 people in voice chat and talk.
No, that's toxic.
Gotta love it.
Okay.
Poor guy. You can tell he plays EU.
Hello. You're not silenced anymore.
I'm eating, so.
Oh, silenced. Funny. I look into the eyes of God. I'm filled with. I can only explain as some kind of cosmic horror. That's the That's the goosebumps. You'll get over it. Don't worry.
Okay, hi.
Good evening. Hello,
Freaking
TTB.
dirty, guys.
How are you doing today? I have a Hanzo, bottom left, indoors. Both DPS are left side.
Yeah, yeah.
My shields have. Junk's up top. Zyno personal. I'm low, be careful. Thank you. My shield's down. Yikes.
Well, that happens.
It sure does. It sure does.
Maybe you can try a Flower Mercy.
TTB, reuniting with Panda.
Oh, mercy. That would be great. I'm
Zyno personal.
Junkrat. The way I know how to. Let's go.
And a nade. Our monkey needs help, be careful. Oh, fuck me. Hanzo bottom right, shooting. I'm low. My shield's weak. Wow. No way.
Fall back.
Fucking Zarya.
We're all dead, buddy.
Help you, Anna. Aw, hands.
Let's be here more, Panda. Panda was away.
Okay, I'll
I
try
believe.
it. Nice switch.
No, your
Actually-
hands is good.
I actually don't know what happened. Like, I heard you were in
A lot of
Texas.
times.
I don't know, Nade. Wait a minute, I'm here alone.
Oof.
I did not realize that. That was my
What is
bad.
happening, guys? Okay, regroup, full regroup, full regroup.
Oh wait, we have a Mercy now. Hold on. Zarya's in the back. Zarya's one. Never mind.
Guys, we are just one by one, please. Their payload is standing still, so we are winning.
That's
right
true.
now, okay? So
That is
stand
true.
still, regroup. Okay, nice guys, sweet.
Ryan's close left side. With Zarya, no personal.
I'm coming.
I don't know, Nade. Ryan wants to shatter. He's pinning me left. In Cali, travel from Cali back to the East Coast. So I was in Texas for a couple of days. I see. It's be a very fun time to travel. That is a good point.
Nations, that is gold, guys.
Zyno personal.
Oof.
Yeah, how did he do? What the fuck was that? It's like
Okay,
the animation played
Learn
downwards.
how to regroup. Next that we are going to use is going to be Rhine. Let's go, Rhine. I'm following you. Well, Rhine could be better.
Could have been better. Thank you.
Good solo shatter.
This is not going so well.
I have golden eliminations. What is happening?
He has
did
gold
my healing.
eliminations.
I got fucked, that's all. It's okay, it's okay.
Okay. I think personally, I can be wrong, but I think we didn't group up properly.
Yeah,
I
that's
I
true,
think
but,
so too.
Let's try like strong damage, like for Mercy. I think will be good. So
Yeah, but I don't think the damage is a problem here.
yeah, that's why Fire Mercy is good in our situation. I think it's good. Like it's persistent good damage, and it's a
Okay.
full pressure, you know.
I'm going to try to keep the Reinhardt and Zarya with it. Shanzi
Okay,
in
nice.
chat and voice chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Shanzi. We don't just stay calm. Like it's going to be okay. Don't.
I'm always calm, don't worry.
Things. Okay, nice. Okay, sweet.
That is a lie.
Don't rage.
I would never. There's junk shit at the door, be careful.
Let's Arya get it.
Mm-hmm. They have a Hanzo as well.
Oof, I didn't.
Zyno personal. Ryan's half, shield weak. He's one. Bit unfortunate. Bit unfortunate. I mean, some good passes, solid. Not many things make the sim all over first. However, my first meal of the day after being told to be getting to eat that does sound really good. Ryan half. He's just really low still. Never mind, he got nanoed. Interesting.
Okay, barrage.
Come on, overextending. Now we can take them.
Zarya's close to spawn, right side. Ryan's half. Never mind, he's getting healed.
Oh, dude.
That's big, that's big.
That's good, that's good.
That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good.
Mercy's rezzing. Oh dear.
Okay, for guys, regroup. I don't want anyone is leaving that spawn door. Okay, let's go right side. Wait seconds, wait, we're not full. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we are all here. Let's go right side. Yes. Oh, sweet. They use all their ults, so we have the advantage.
Back with Starbucks. Welcome back,
Okay,
Dragon.
Ryan, I'm going to. Oh, they didn't use all their ults.
I'm low. Thank you, Mercy.
Okay,
She tried
regroup
it.
again. Everybody here? Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And again.
Going right. I'm half.
Let's go.
I'm one. Careful. Thank you.
Sweet. Well done. Go harder, go harder. Ryan has ult. Nice, well done.
Ryan's spinning me in the back. He's right side. Oh dear.
Ryan, nothing.
I have 13 deaths, bro. I'm feeding this game. Holy shit.
Well done, guys, well done. Regroup again. We're not going to go die. Okay, Farah, can you go left side flanking? With the Mercy? Ooh, they are getting sloppy.
I like this guy. 3 right side. Ryan's half. Zyno personal.
Go, 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 guys.
I'm low on points. Hanzo's 1.
Get that, Ryan, get that, Ryan. Sweet,
Oh, big.
well done. Get that, get him, get the junk, get the junk, get the junk. Where's he? Oh, sweet.
Junk's alive still. Never mind. Zarya's in. No personal. Watch Mercy res. Watch Mercy res. Left side. Nice.
Well done.
I'm low. Be
guys.
careful. Ryan's 1. My shield's weak.
We made it, let's go.
You guys made it. Oh yeah. The regrouping strat worked. It's strategy now. Okay, we're going to regroup again. We don't use
Good God. I love this game.
I got graph.
Oh, okay, we don't have any other firepower, but it's no problem.
I'm gonna wait.
Ryan's pushed up.
Ryan has ult, does he?
Yep, probably. He's one though, never mind.
Okay, regroup.
My bad, sorry.
Oh.
I was basically like pushing the button as soon as he said that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get the Minji X Balago crossover.
And we got manslaughtered.
Oh dear.
I'm gonna graph on this spot.
Yeah, Baron.
I think maybe if I like shattered quickly there, or like more. Okay, if I had shattered
Okay. What happened again?
more quickly, I would have like.
Was there and then I died.
I guess you're a bit too much in their kill zone.
Huge grab.
Go.
Ana's one. Hanzo right side. Mercy's close left. Mercy's one behind. She's rezzing. Ana no nade.
Heal that Anna. Thank you. Well done, guys. Doomfist.
More quickly? I think you mean quicker. You're absolutely correct.
We can do
My bad.
Wait, Lucio, wait for a graph from them. They're gonna grab.
Yeah.
Or no.
Tire top. Behind.
Nice.
Watch Shatter.
Ryan has ult.
Get the shoot from Ryan up. And
Ryan's one. Watch Mercy res. Junk's behind. Wait, is he dead? He is. Nice. Is this Arion payload?
Well done, guys. Well done.
This one's tiring me a little bit.
Please, you don't have to.
And a nade. Watch dragon. Oh, nice. They use dragon there. Watch shadow. Ryan's half though. He's one.
no.
He's naded. Sorry, I was in the air.
Anna low, Anna one. Regroup.
Ryan's spinning in the back.
Regroup.
Backing up.
Almost got graph. Oh, wait.
They are very good at overextending.
I have a barrage.
Damn it. Don't rest.
No, let's switch. Wait, no,
I think he wanted to switch there. Zyno personal. Tire. Unfortunate. Oh dear.
I'm gonna graph.
I can't make it to point. Junk right side close. Thank you, Mercy.
Move.
Junk close, right. Zarya in the ground, I'm pinning her.
Push.
Ryan spinning left. He's on me. Watch Mercy res.
Nice.
Ryan's one.
Ryan one.
Nursing on this.
Heal that shield.
Dragon main. Nice, good shit, guys.
Dude,
Well done.
holy shit, okay.
That was teamwork to the max. Okay, guys, we just need one tick.
Oh
Yeah,
my
we need
god.
to, I think we need to do sim or like something cheesy. I think, but I don't know.
Oh fuck, dude.
I don't know, but we do. Okay.
You think Pharmacy will be good on defense?
Yeah, I think they didn't really show an opportunity how to kill it, I guess.
Yo, Shanzi, what you wanna play?
Oh shit.
Sorry. If you prefer me to, if you wanted to go, it's fine. It's whatever. Too late. Again.
Oh shit, 13,000 damage.
I'd like to reiterate that I think the Lucy's is Fabio somewhere from work. I can't remember who Fabio is. It sounds so familiar. But I mean, that would make sense. Calling them sloppy and all. That does sound like someone in a workout video would say.
I can show you.
Interesting. DPS bottom left. Ryan's half. I'm not pushing in though. His shield is weak. I'm low. I don't know sleep. Thank you, Rap. Someone's pushed up right side. On the right side. On the right side. No nade. Alright, on the right. They're pushing me. I'm low. Thank you. Big.
I'm low.
Desire no personal. Is anyone in the point? What are they chasing? Zarya on point, Zarya on point. She's one. How? I don't know, nade. What? Junk left side. Thank you, Mercy. He tried it.
Oh, damn it.
Oh dear. Good try, guys. Better luck next time. GG.
GG.
Oh man. That was an interesting one. Mercy gave up. I think he kind of like strayed away from it too far, you know? It happens. It happens. I didn't do very well that game though. I was very confused the whole time. No idea what I was doing at any point. Basically. But that's okay, you know? Can't win them all. Yo, we have Howard for the win. It's very promising. I like the sound of that. And he's playing Ana. Yo, this guy's level 5 endorsement. Holy shit. What a legend. There's Mercy needs to toggle. Max DPI is crouching out of the Fable level 5. The one person with level 5. The legend themselves. Hello, team.
Hello.
Hello.
That sounds like incredibly high level Mercy tactics.
Point in 30 seconds.
Hell yeah.
I'll try to put my TP. I might fuck it up, but
I believe in you. You won't fuck it up. It's okay.
thank you.
Going
But
right
at least
side?
one person believes.
Nah, he's trash.
Don't listen to McCree. You're wonderful. One man's trash is another man's treasure. Holding shield. They walled it. Hog no hook. Big nade, big nade, big nade. May no cry on point. Zarya 1. Mei's on me, Mei's on me. Mei's on point. Mercy 1. Don't know why I did that. Hog no hook on the left. Nice.
Easy fight.
Someone.
Was my sacrifice good now?
Yes. You died for the cause and it was worth it. Nice. Good shot. I saw that. Beautiful work. See? You're doing great.
TP straight to point, yeah?
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go up above the little shrine thing.
Okay, okay. Mei's at the top left. I'm holding up shield. Hog no hook. Ana no nade. Bottom left Ana. She's low. She's 1.
Mei's anti.
Mei anti. Mei's 1.
She's
Oh
low.
god. Zardo personal. On the right side. She's 1.
Mei 1.
Nice. Right side Ana. Ana 1. Hanzo right. Hanzo on point. Why would you go diva against the sim? What? Unfortunate. Ana no nade, left side. Nice. Good shit, guys.
Nice.
You reckon Jeff gives himself shot call level 100? Jeff doesn't play Overwatch. Yeah, Jeff doesn't play Overwatch. He may pretend that he does in like the interviews and stuff, but he doesn't play Overwatch. Takes the point from his multitasking. Hey, does anyone know who Hatsune Miku is?
No.
I heard they did a
I
collab
do.
with Domino's.
Do you do?
She did a collab with the Ash Niku.
Wait, a collab with who? Sorry?
Ash Niku, the girl with like blue hair. She makes a lot of pop music.
Oh wait, hold on. Wow, that's in because Miku herself is a girl with blue hair. Wow,
That's
they're
good.
twins. Wow.
Yeah, maybe.
Can you tap down the name so I can look that up later?
That's the one.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
No problem then.
Wow. They well, nice.
Point, I got him.
Diva no matrix. I'm holding 3 at the door. My shield's weak, be careful.
Same right side.
Diva 1. Oh no. I'm low, be careful. Ooh. If it is Jeff playing, I actually just him with the.
Anna, no.
Oh dear. It's a good song. I'll have to listen to it. I don't think I know it. I'm incredibly biased. It's okay. Everyone is incredibly biased. There's no such thing as objective
Pyramid.
criticism. There's 2 people top right. It's Lucio and Genji. They're both here. Ball on me. I'm low. Main. Sorry. Oh, big nade. Big nade. Ball on point. Anti. Bottom left.
Go down.
Wait, did he get beat there? Oh dear. Okay. Diva's right side.
Lucio.
Almost have ability, just keep stalling.
What the fuck is happening? Ball 1. Lucio 1 left, right side.
Far 1.
Cross about the shrine.
Mercy 1. Genji 1. Nice. Just Genji on point right now. He's one. Nice, good shit, guys.
Nice. Didn't even get a tick.
Were the new Archon quest is out today? Oh yeah, the Danny Leaf quest in Asia, right? Hello, Golf. How you doing today? I've heard as well. Wait, hold on. If it's in Asia, that means it's good.
Genji's top right.
Doesn't that mean it's gonna be here today? Ball one. Krino flash. I'm jumping to point. I'm low and anti.
Genji low.
Oh dear, that was unfortunate. Can I make it in time? I don't think so. Unlucky. Should go for everybody. Interesting. Wait, I gotta. This match might go on for a while. Ash Nico. Oops.
It's all good, dude. We got this.
There we go. Oh, he's on right now. Oh, okay. Alright. I gotta send it later. If you know the song, you can put it in the music channel if you'd like. I'm gonna tap on having an idea for a new Vocaloid. Do tell. Good, are you? I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Glad you're doing good as well. Dear. Oh yeah, I forgot I put this skin on. Damn, that gun looks really cool. It's actually my favorite Zarya skin so far. Hatsune Mike. I think that might already be a thing, actually. But it is a good idea. Genji top right. Ball's in. Half. One. Ball one. Ball one. Nice. Nice. They wasted lamp at the door. Big. Kree left side. D.Va's out of mech.
DVD mech. Just one, nice.
Kree left side. They use lamp again. Green no flash. I got booped, sorry. I'm low, I'm low. Keep me up, thank you, thank you. I'm close to grab. It was out of mech. Our Ryan is not in voice chat, I think. Be careful.
Genji point.
Nice, nice.
Can we vault Billy for this fight?
Balls in. One. I'm backing right. Genji's past point. Genji's half, right side. Genji's one.
Good left.
Kree left side, close. Kree ulting left side. Nice, good shit, guys.
Nice.
My goodness. What a good team. Wow. Ugh. Does he want to go right again? Looks like it. Fallen down a dark rabbit hole. Oh no, what happened, Narms?
This is why they lost. They didn't break all the machines.
Rookie mistake. Always happens. Not even the vending machine outside. Damn.
Shake my head.
SMH my head.
SMH my head, bro. Jeez. That's always the secret, you know?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 突入開始。目標 A を確保してください。
Hanzo's bottom left with green.
That's half.
Ryan shield is super low. Big.
Nice. They've used it, man.
They use lamp left side. I'm low. Oh dear.
He was half.
Big res, big res.
We can push through here, maybe.
He's on the left with Hanzo's also top left.
So Mike Hudson is the father of Miku Hudson in a game called Yon. What the fuck? Damn, that is a rabbit hole. Hanzo top left. Wait, how did he get hit there? Round one? Hanzo top left. They use lamp. Oh, careful, careful, Ryan. Big, 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 big. Ryan's really low. I shouldn't have gone in. Totally fed there. I could have just waited for the dragon. I'm still not sure my brain is whiplash.
He's on the left.
That sounds like whiplash information. Is that Ryan alive? What is happening? I shouldn't have used that there. Was that Ryan dead? He was. I didn't even realize. Is it a passion PB? Be right back. Alright. How's this close left side?
Hold up, hold up, hold up.
Okay, okay. Oh dear.
Can you hold shield?
He has another one. Damn. Unshield down. I can't make it the point in time. Can you touch Mercy? Nah, that's okay. Good try, guys. Better luck next time. GG.
GG's.
Well played.
It was a draw. Wait, it was a draw, right? Yeah, it was. Wow. There was a Domino's Hudson. Yes, yes, there was. I know that one. Domino's Pizza. I'm too scared to venture further as the depths may be endless. You know, that's an understandable fear. Because they often are. Oh dear, golf. Sorry to hear that. Mikoid. Wait, is that why there was that one image of Miku executing that Noid guy? Yeah, there's a picture of Miku like holding a gun to the back of this guy's head.
間もなくバトル開始。
I've seen that.
ヒーローを選択してください。
But yes, a lot of very often chasing answers will only bring more questions. It never ends. It's up to you to decide when to stop, because the pit will not. Wait, that kind of rhymed actually. Hello, team. Good talk.
Hello.
We have the same off tank.
Hello.
Or, well, the same other tank, who may not be an off tank because he decided to play Reinhardt as soon as he could. Rein's on point. Zarya no ally bubble. Zarya no bubbles. They wasted lamp already? I'm low, be careful. Rein's half. Rein's one. Lucio low left side, never mind. Nice, nice, nice. Average also have more questions than answers. An unfortunate fate, to be sure. They're pushing in right side. My shield's half. I have shatter here. 4 down. I'm low, careful. Nice, nice. Alright, me and Reaper are coming back, be careful. Because of a stupid typo and a stupid thought. Well, scientific pursuit, you know, Narbs? That's how a lot of great discoveries are made. Watch Ryan right side. Labs pushed up. They used lamp. I'm backing up a bit. Back into point, back into point. That's a huge grab. Big nade, big nade, big nade. They're all anti right now. Back it up. That's okay, that's okay. Lost to the Noid. They wasted lamp. I'm gonna die here. It's okay, that's 2 ults just for me. Coming back. Our Zarya needs help. Four down. Nice, Reaper. Just Ryan alive. Nice, good shit, good shit. Someone's on point, it's Lucio. Nice, nice, good shit, guys. Is that Ryan, like, not doing very good, I feel like? They're pushing right side. I'm half, be careful. Thank you. They wasted lamp. Watch shatter here. Never mind. Shatter pain Ryan. Never mind. That was really stupid of me. Charged right in front of the fucking the window. On the bright side, they wasted window and noon. Waiting to regroup. They're looking to spawn. Careful, Junk, you're up there alone. Just heads up. My shield's weak, they're gonna grab the door. Nice sleep. Pinning Ryan. Ryan's low. Big. Lamp down. Huge. Someone's on point. Lucy on point. Lucy on point alone. He's one. Nice, nice. Zarya on point. She's one. Nice. Good shit, guys. Sorry. Hello there. Popular dear VTuber who streams the weekly, I think it's weekly now, on twitch.tv/TobyDear. Welcome to the chat room. How are you doing today? Oh yeah, that's right, you're taking a week off, that's good. Watch over your health. You know, sometimes it just be like that. Sometimes it just be like that. Ryan's one. Okay, well. Sometimes it just be like that. Okay. Okay. They wasted lamp. I'm charging in. Didn't work. My bad. Didn't work. We could try going left side. Going left. I shouldn't have gone in. We were down too many. And I should probably like not have gone left when I realized that none of my team was going left. That was my bad. Mine's really pushed up. Ryan's low. Nice, Lucio. Good boop. Wait. Oh, okay. Alright. Lucio's pushed up. That's alright, not our map. Is this how it feels to me? Cause wait, what do you mean? Oh, I mean you are sick, so that probably feels bad on its own. But yeah, it's not nice to when you have to like skip, but you gotta remember that it's, you know, for a good cause. My shield's weak, be careful. They wasted lamp. Lamp's down. Shield's weak, letting it recharge a bit. Mine's half. Unfortunate. When you dorm up for like the 4th time, yeah, that's not fun. That's not fun. Definitely. They wasted the lamp again. Wasted shatter. Ryan's 1. Lucy on the ground, left side. Reno flash. Going to point. They use lamp again. Ryan's anti 1. We traded, but be careful. Oh, huge tire. Good shit, Junk. I fell down the stairs so that the tire could detonate them all. I think they're going outside. They're on point. My shield's down. Ryan's hit. Zarya no ally bubble. Zarya's outside. Both tanks are outside. Hanzo on our side. I'm on Hanzo. Never mind. Ryan's coming in. Ryan's full health. It's both tanks and Lucy on point right now. Ah, unlucky. Can think about having coffee and not going to sleep. Godspeed, Norbs. Good luck if that's the fate you choose. I'm with you guys. Zarya has no personal. My shield's down, my shield's down. They'll shatter here. Unfortunate. We got shatter out of them though. Yo, I have 10k damage, let's go! Ryan's 1. I'm low, be careful. Ryan's spinning. He's low. I'm low as well. I wasted shatter, sorry. I'm grabbed. Oh, big, 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 big. Nice, nice. Go to point if you can. Armor is on point, help her out. Oh dear. Kree's coming in outside, on the left. Ryan's half. Both tanks are on me. They wasted lamp. Huge nade, huge nade, huge nade. Get the Ryan if you can, he's low. He's 1. Nice, nice. Good shit, guys. My shield's weak, I'm letting it recharge. Hi, Grim. How you doing? Kree ulting top left. Lucy's gonna touch point. Reaper's there already. How the fuck did he know? I'm offended. Oh dear. A good try, a good try. Unfortunate. Good try, guys. Better luck next time. GG. Damn. Nice fire strike. Nice face. Fucking got him. DPS very lacking? Didn't notice. I'm alive-ish. Alive-ish is better than dead. You know? It's good to hear that you're not dead, I mean. But I do hope you'll feel better. It's modeled wonderfully. It really was. It really was. Sure. I'll give it to the Junkrat. Which time we have? 30 minutes. Let's just go tank again. Also, can't really find out the change colors of Toby's outfit, so that's the thing. Pog. How do you do it? Jim will be the death of me, like, how am I supposed to play? I can barely lift my arm. Listen, it's only at the beginning, right? Because then once you get used to it, not only will be able to lift your arm, you'll be able to lift your team. Right? Hello, dear Vito. I'm sorry, no, it's only funny ones. Texture mapping? Yeah. Oh, like the model itself, right? I thought you figured out like a way of doing it without having to like edit the model itself, like on OBS or something. I can carry them like literally exactly. If you get strong, you can carry big gogs like little dogs. True. It's model texture editing that I have for hoodies. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you can always edit the textures. Technically, if they are using textures, then yeah. Or texture images, you can edit the images and just, you know, easy switch, easy wardrobe. If only it was that easy in real life. It's gonna look kind of dumb though, like a two dwarf carrying 5 other dudes. What's the problem? What's the problem? That's just that just goes to show like how much power is concentrated on like the smaller dimension, you know? It makes people underestimate you. They'll never know all the power that you're concealing in like the small form, right? Anyone got a recommendation for a game to replace League? What's that? The one the VTubers are playing? Eternal Return, Black Survival, something like that. It is a MOBA, and it's also like survival, so maybe you'll like it. There's a VTuber game. Listen, I mean a game that all the VTubers are playing. Wait, Eternal Return, fuck. How is it called again? Eternal Return. Oh wait, I was right. Eternal Return Black Survival. Is it free? I actually don't know. Oh wait, it is. Wow, I didn't know that. Here you go. That's right, Vebe is now part of VShoujo. Which is really cool, and also impressive that she wasn't to begin with, because, I mean, she should have been. VShoujo do tryouts? I don't think so. I don't think so. They didn't do auditions or anything. They just, like, held everything privately, which is understandable. Maybe they will eventually. But yeah. Not at the moment. Oh god. Hello team.
Hello.
Live is big enough to be able to do that, which should not so much. Yeah, they did everything privately. But I think that was part of the point. Like they were very selective. They got basically the biggest independent VTubers that that are out there. Well, English ones anyway. Yeah. Speaking of which, the Hololive auditions closed recently, so maybe you can try for the next round, Panda. I have Sim May. Ryan Shield very weak.
Yeah, it's down.
Hanzo's top right, I'm low.
Yeah, see it.
Big pick, huge. Ryan's half on point. May's on me. Ryan's one. Ryan's one, never mind. Sorry, no personal. She's one. Nice, good shit, guys. May's still alive. Left side, indoors. I wouldn't get picked. So, even if that were true, which is probably not, that doesn't mean you shouldn't still try. I have Soldier Cree now.
I'm sitting on it.
Godspeed, Soldier. It's a weird lamp. Ryan's low. On a nade. I'm low. My shield's weak. That was so tragic. I got flashed out of Shatter. And then shattered myself. Feels bad. Penny, you should audition anyway. You think you have all of those downfalls, but that's your criteria, not theirs. You don't know what their criteria is. Oh wait, I'm feeding, sorry. Unfortunate.
They know I'm Reaper now.
Big. Ryan's half. I don't know, sleep. These lamps are so strange. Watch payload, guys. Zarya close, I'm gonna try to pin her. She's half, no personal. Mind you got naded. Ryan's half, Ryan's one. I'm in physical pain. My shield's low, be careful.
Oh no way.
Ooh, Panda, don't spell it like that. Spell JP. If you spell it like that, that's a slur. Be careful. Or GPN, yeah. Pre-ulting top right, never mind. Oh wait, I hit someone? Sorry, it's okay, you didn't know. Wait. They wasted Shatter, I'm gonna die here though. Never mind.
Crit dead.
Huge heals, thank you. Also, you don't have to speak Japanese. Amelia doesn't speak Japanese. She got in. Oh, huge sleep. It's okay, it's okay. Jesus Christ, why is it so bright? My shield's weak, be careful. On a nade. Soldier ulting top. All shattered. Not sure why I did that, but you know. Huge Reaper.
Oh no.
Zarya low left side.
Yeah.
Ryan's behind, Ryan's behind. Nice, nice. Good shit, guys. Zarya's close still. Lucy's coming in. Kree ulting right side. Ana no sleep. Reaper coming in. The lamp went down. Reaper 1. Ana the left side, indoors. It's not an Ana. What? Ryan 1. Zarya behind. Zarya no personal. 3 left. 1. Reaper right. Nice. Good shit, guys. I don't have to, but I would love to. I would just like to know if people are talking shit. I don't know, just in case. That is true. That is true. You're vulnerable to that in every language. But yeah, like, you don't have to speak Japanese. In fact, Amelia is learning Japanese right now as part of having joined. She started doing like Duolingo streams and shit. I think Guru too. I'm off. Godspeed, golf. Good luck in there. Hopefully it goes easy on you. Symmetra, why you play Hammond? If you Symmetra... Good question. Imposter. Sus. My sim is only an open queue. C rating. I see. I learn new languages as well, but that shit is hard. True, it really is. I was using Duolingo for Japanese, but like, Duolingo is not very good. And I didn't really have the patience to get too in depth into it. Also want to be a part of it. So we want to be able to collab with the other girls. So yeah, of course. That is why they do it.
Oh shit.
Left side. Ryan's half. Ooh, the sleep kill. Lucy 1, never mind. I don't know nade. I'm low. I'm gonna die here. Sorry. Kree right side. They have a sim TP. Top left. Top left.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it from here.
I don't know nade. Ouch. TP down. Tank's close. Thank you. Kree half. They use nade. Kree ulting, my shield's gonna die. Shield down. Sorry.
Oh, the guy did. No, there was a perfect field. There was no reason to die there. We just all stood in the field, we all survived. But somehow...
You're coming left side. There's turrets on point. Lucy behind us. Big. Ana on the ground. She's 1. No nade. Huge nade. Huge nade. Huge nade. Lucy 1. Zarya 1. Zarya 1.
No.
Thank you. Ana's on the left here. Where I am. No nade. No sleep. Ryan 1. Ryan still 1. Sorry, I went too deep. I'm looking at language, but yeah, it's same. That's really the only reason why I can speak English okay, because it's been so long. But yeah, learning languages is difficult. Shield weak, letting it recharge. Thank you. Lucio right side. Ana no sleep. Ana no nade.
Left side Kree.
Shield's gonna die. That doesn't hit anyone.
No.
Shield down. I feel like I could have maybe shattered something there. Or Pharah behind. Unfortunate. I can't even speak Swedish, not second official language. Oh, I didn't know that. Didn't know they spoke Swedish in Finland. Huh. That's a lot though. That's already like 3 languages you'd be supposed to know. Like I had lessons for other languages in school, but I never learned anything. Kree ulting right side. My shield's gonna die. Kree no flash on the right. Huge tire, huge tire. Kree shattered right side far.
No, he's not shattered.
He was. I'm sorry, it lasts so little now. Oh no. Unfortunate. He got shattered, right? I'm not bullshitting. He died. He shattered. He got shattered there, right? Pharah pushed up. Zyno personal.
Oh wow, they're so good.
Gotta learn to focus on English and Swedish for some. Yeah,
We can
understandable.
I'm switching to me.
They're looking at the right door. Tanks are really pushed up both. Zyno personal. Nice wall, huge wall, huge wall. Kree right side. And the... That bubble, bro. Holy shit. That was so good.
Fucking Lucio, man.
That was so good. That fucking bubble, bro. Unfortunate.
This time.
Christ almighty.
Oh my god, I'm so tired of Lucio. So we're gonna Lucio this time. It's fucking far. Meme time. It's not my fault. I can't not get booped off the map.
It's okay, it's okay. You're doing your best, don't worry. Yeah, it's charge. That's Pharah. I think they had a Mercy as well, right? Wait, did they? Actually, they might have not. That might have been just like, well, everything hard focusing me because I'm charging into the whole team. You know? But it'd really just be like that. It's a lot of damage. Genki da na. We win these? Hell yeah, we do. Fantastic, King. I have Hanzo Kree. My shield's dying. Letting it recharge. Ana no sleep. Left side Ryan. Ana use nade.
Oh no.
Ryan's half. I don't know sleep. I don't know nade.
Let's save what I'm coming back.
Hanzo far left, close. Ryan's one. Hanzo's pushed up past the choke, he's left side. What the fuck is the Hanzo? What's happening? Shield weak, be careful. Ryan shield down. He's pinning right side, he's behind us. I don't know nade. I'm feeding so hard, bro. God damn.
It's unfortunate that I walked past and accidentally got none of the.
It is unfortunate. That's okay.
Report him.
Report. Kree right side, no flash, he's indoors. Letting my shield recharge, it's really low.
Yeah,
sorry.
No, that was overextending by.
Oh, no.
Go.
Going in.
Heal me.
No way.
Right on the ground, he's one.
Kree is behind, killing our
Make me one, make me one, just turn fucking one.
You put me to the dragon.
Guys, just regroup, we just have to get him off the point. I have Bob. Why the fuck did everyone ult? Chill the fuck out. Just regroup, I have Bob.
Oh my god. Incredible video game. This guy's... Oh man. Tanks pushed up, right side.
Oh my god, creep.
I don't know, sleep. Ryan might try to shatter this, but he's anti-ed. Ryan's pinning me. I'm low, be careful. Ryan's pushed up.
We're gonna lose if you play like this. Just fucking regroup. Get the fuck back. I'm just dying one by one. We're just wasting time. Get the fuck back.
Okay,
I would just play 10.
Oh fuck, I love this game, bro.
96%.
Wait for John.
Summer's left side far. Kree ulting far left.
Both heroes down.
GG. We don't deserve this win. We're not regrouping once, we don't deserve this. Absolutely not.
Oh my god.
We have to let them win now.
On the left, the voice chat. Oh shit. Ryan's anti-ed, pushed up. Carino flash. Lucy's one on the left. Nice, good job, guys. Oh my god. Hello, Cordy. How are you doing, buddy? He was actually... Was he away from the... Because I saw he joined halfway through, I think. Yeah, he only joined here, I think. He didn't start off the game in the voice chat, I don't think. Hasn't even been a win yet and you already don't deserve it? So true. Then okay, glad to hear it.
Yeah, I have an echo. Let's go double hit, can just fuck this bitch.
He's so riled up. He has the fire. He has the fire.
4、3、2、1。突入開始。目標 A を確保してください。その傷癒してやる。
Shield weak. Big nade, huge nade, huge nade.
Enemy
Shield down.
Enemy weakness. Ryan shield low.
Ryan's half. Another nade.
This, we need to do so. The McCree behind you, behind you. Have to focus the McCree. He's the only one fucking. No one else, to be honest.
Go
Kill
all
the
left
McCree.
side and kill him. Go back.
Oh my god.
Hamster is behind. We can use him to flank the Kree when we go in. Okay, right now the Kree is to the right, sadly, behind the statue.
I'm really not getting healed here.
Shield half.
Enemy shield half to I think.
I'm going right side. Don't know where the Kree is. I don't know sleep. Huge nade. Ryan's anti. Never mind, he got bubble. I'm gonna die. I'm low. Big sleep. Big sleep.
I hope we didn't slam, and I pray it was them.
It was them.
Yeah, good.
Okay, we can still go with slam.
Just regroup, and we have every ult.
Just regroup. Shield half.
Shield up, bro. Just shield up. Until it breaks.
I'm shattered. I'm grabbed. Right on the ground. He's one. Copy half. Copy half. Copy half. Creepy. Lucy behind. Lucy behind. Zarya's one. Left side. Zarya left side. No personal. Lucy on point.
Zarya is one. Zarya absolutely one. Get the point fast. Get the point size spawn. Get the point size spawn.
Oh my lord.
Don't leave the point. Don't fucking C9 this shit.
Our ball's in trouble. Never mind. Zarya anti. Big sleep. Ryan's half. Big shot.
Oh, sick good, sick good.
I don't know, Nate.
But that took everyone. Holy shit. If they went there, it was scary.
Get it to destroy.
Shield melting the right, I'm focusing shield. Careful.
Creolting far right. Holding shield. Someone's on point. My shield's down. My shield's down. I don't know sleep. I'm asleep. I'm asleep. Be careful for shatter. Ryan's pinning behind. Good try, guys. Better luck next time. GG. Oh man. What a fun game. Ah. Thank you. Good reminder. Give it to the soldier? No, DPS never deserve it. DPS only deserve it when the tanks and the supports don't more, you know? It's always a bad day when your balls are in trouble. True. True. It's never a good feeling. balls are never in trouble, luckily, because I'm hydrated. Yo. Same, apparently. Thanks, Tarm, for the hydration reminder. I've got an offer at the tattoo parlor, Pog. To tattoo people? Or like to perform another role in the parlor? I mean, people gotta do other stuff in the tattoo parlor, right? It's not just like a bunch of people just tattooing people, right? It's gotta be like accountants and shit, right? Maybe? To tattoo people? Oh, I see. Pog. Let's go. Can I get a hookup? Cheat. Oh, well, sorry, Troy. I guess you can't get a hookup. What else would a tattoo parlor? No, listen, okay, that's what I'm saying. Because, like, if there's people, like, employed at a tattoo parlor, right? But not everyone who works at a tattoo parlor will necessarily be making the tattoos, right? There's got to be other people working there. Maybe. I think. That's my question. Unless literally everyone who works at the tattoo parlor can make tattoos as like a baseline, and then they have other skills on top of that to perform the other functions, you know? Front desk, cleaner, receptionist, you know? But maybe they just multitask, you know? Maybe they're just like, you know, really poggers. Kevin, who's gonna be the Kevin, right? Right? Who's gonna be the Kevin? Yo, she broke this shit. She really did that. Damn. It's Kevin, I'm Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you, TTV. Oh my god, I'm sorry, it's the reflex. Thank you, Mom. The such a the reflex. Sorry. No, listen, Mom, listen, I love you. Thank you so much. It's time to say goodbye to YouTube. It's time to say goodbye to YouTube. You know, I both know it's the sword, you know? Like I see like a mod command that's like, you know, like changing the game or anything, and I just look, YouTube, wait, I gotta put up some music playing, hold on. There we go. Oh god, that's loud. YouTube, hello, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for checking out the VOD. Unfortunately, we are reaching a recurring segment of stream where we watch, I'm just trying to step it up, I'm sorry. Memes, we're gonna watch them together. Copyright bad. Copyright will get me in trouble if I put this on the VOD. So VOD ends here. Feel free to come by, watch the stream while it's live on Twitch. Join the Discord server on Discord. There's links to both of those down in the description. You can share memes for us to watch together in the Discord. And yeah, thanks for watching the VOD. Bye.